You're listening to CBC Online at cbchs.org.
On CBC Online, visiting with Kevin Slaten, class of 72. Kevin, tell me about your CBC experience. What do you remember?
Oh, it was unbelievable when I went to CBC. We had such great football, basketball, baseball, soccer teams. We were always the top dog in everything, and of course, academically, we were at the top of the list, along with St. Louis U High at first, and a little bit later on, DeSmet tried to inch their way up, but it was always CBC and SLU High, and for me, the academics and the sports combination were impossible to beat.
Certainly, if people want to hear your name, Kevin Slaten, they don't want to talk about CBC, they want to talk about your career. I mean, what an illustrious career. Pretty much stops at every radio station. You know, how would you describe your career? Talk about your career.
Well, it's been fascinating. Television and radio were always interesting to me, and of course, I wanted to keep it in the sports vein, though I've branched a little bit out into general talk at times. So a good variety for me has been the key to having fun. And always for me was being able to have a forum where you could tell the truth, at least as you saw it. And some people don't want to hear that. Some people don't want you to do it. Some people are afraid of it. So it's sometimes a constant battle of swimming upstream. But for me, it's been enjoyable. And as long as you're true to yourself, I think you'll find a way to do what it is you want to do.
Probably there are only two names in St. Louis radio that would spark some sort of discussion, J.C. Corcoran, Kevin Slaten. I mean, talk about that aspect. I mean, people see you as this controversial person, but when they listen to your show, you pretty much talk reasonable.
Well, I don't understand how controversy gets attached to somebody who just calls it like they see it. That, to me, shouldn't be controversial. That should be somebody telling the truth. So, unfortunately, in St. Louis, many times, if you steer away from what the norm is, people qualify that as controversial. I don't. There are times when I'll tell the truth as I see it. If people don't agree with it, that doesn't make it controversial, but some people like to think it does. And once that brand is attached, it's usually there. It's funny, I ran into J.C. Corcoran this past weekend in Chicago, and we had a good laugh about that toasting controversy.
But certainly, I mean, you know, people kind of give you maybe a label that doesn't even apply sometimes.
Oh, yeah, they do. And that's okay. People are going to label you any way you want. You know what you do. You know what you do truthfully, what you do honestly. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as integrity is part of the equation, you don't have to answer to anybody.
And again, today you're down here helping support the CBC Alumni Open. Talk about today. We got a lot of alumni. You talked to the president of the school. You talked to Michael Jordan, our fundraising. Pretty good feeling around the school. From you as an alumnus, you feel like things are on the move.
I think things are great. I don't think they've ever had a brighter future at CBC. Mike England has done such a great job there. Michael Jordan coming back, things are even better. I think everything is on the uptick. The athletics are popular again and successful again. Everybody seems to be proud to be an alum of CBC.
Everyone certainly remembers your days as calling soccer games up on the old band room. Talk about that a little bit.
We had a lot of fun doing that. D.C. Wilcott mentioned it to me one time, would I consider doing it. I thought it would be fun. Bob Horgan was the soccer coach at the time, and he weighed in on it in a positive way. So I thought, well, what a better way to get a play-by-play experience, even though it was over a loudspeaker system. Probably didn't make the neighbors at off Clayton Road very happy, because at nighttime we were blaring it out pretty much in a passionate, exciting way, which is how I would love to do play-by-play. The guys that I listened to and tried to emulate when I was growing up were passionate about play-by-play. That's how I'd always be, and that's how it was born those days at CBC.
Again, CBC Online, we're visiting with Kevin Slaten, class of 72. Myself, child of the late 70s, early 80s, got asked about the Steamers. What a great time.
What a great atmosphere. I mean, Tom Twellman was the original general manager there, St. Louis U High grad, I might add, who hired me to do the public address announcing. And I said, well, what am I going to do, Tom? What do you want me to do? He said, make it exciting. And so I took that and ran with it. And we incorporated that into the player introductions, into simple announcements of who scored a goal, either for the Steamers or the opposition. We almost whispered it when it was the opposition. And the fans seemed to react to it. They had great crowds, young people. It was certainly a young demographic. And the players did as much to promote the sport as anybody did. All St. Louis kids, that was the idea and the brainchild of Pat McBride. And I thought that was as fun a gig as I've ever had.
You know, you talk about blazing trails, doing things that never been done, but certainly you built a career off of being different. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, I always thought Howard Cosell was a guy that I emulated when I was growing up and when I first got into this business. And I had a chance to meet him one time. And he said to me, everybody can be the same. He said, if you want to stand out, be different. Whatever that means to you, follow it. And Bud Wilkinson told me the same thing. And so I thought about that, and I thought, nobody seems to seize the opportunity in sports to be a journalist. Everybody is somewhat of a bandwagon jumper, and they're on it, they're off it, but they're always trying to please the teams. I didn't go about it to try to displease the teams. I went about it to try to tell the truth to the people I'm representing, which I believe are the fans of any sporting event who listen or watch you. And if you can't be honest with them, then you lose your credibility and you have no integrity.
Certainly, you've been very outspoken about the direction of journalism, the direction of broadcast journalism. What would you tell a student today, get in high school? Why would they want to do it?
I would tell them that it's a fun life. It's an enjoyable life. It's tough to get into it, and you will have to have a thick skin from your peers, because you're going to be criticized from your peers if you decide you're going to take the road that I've taken, and that is tell the truth as you see it. So many of them are afraid to do it, as you see in St. Louis, and if you're doing it, you're going to stand out. And if you don't want to stand out, if you don't feel that you can take the criticism, then don't get into it, period. Otherwise, be a PR person.
Sure. Finally, again, visiting with Kevin Slaten, class of 72, KFNS Radio. Kevin, CBC made a lot of strides this year with our, drug avoidance program and really putting it out there for giving kids an opportunity to avoid drugs. You've been very outspoken, very supportive of the school early on about that. Maybe talk about that. What do you think about schools who take that kind of a measure? We've been beaten up, but I think you've been very supportive from day one.
I don't think I was ever prouder of CBC than I was that day. They took a proactive approach, which so many people and so many schools and so many universities refuse to do. When you take a proactive approach to do the right thing, I don't know how anyone can attack you. But we have a lot of do-gooders in this society today who are going to look at all of this baloney about you're violating someone's rights. No, you're not. You're saying, here's what you're going to do if you come to CBC. If you don't like that, you don't have to come. But once you enter that school, there are rules. And for me, that was a very proud moment that CBC took that stand and took it in an upstream fashion. What I mean by that is you're swimming upstream against popular notions, and you're doing the right thing while you're doing it. So that made me a proud man.
Finally, you're just proud of your association with the school. I'm assuming you're proud to be a CBC alum.
More than proud, and days like today make you feel that way. And as I just articulated with regard to the drug policy, couldn't be prouder.
Good stuff. Kevin Slaten, CBC Online. We'll check in with you guys later.
CBC, Men for Tomorrow, Brothers for Life.